We are going to have a conversation now about what's happening in the state of the country. Many things going on. Strategic Communications Advisor Dr. Barrack Muluka is our guest. Dr. good morning.
Morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well.
Yeah.
Happy October.
Happy October 1st. Yeah, I think it ends on Sunday.
Tumengia.
And I hope to see you and, of course, Okoh.
Yes.
Yes.
See us where?
October 1st.
Where is that?
Okay.
In the relevant places.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing
And
the
I
fest.
hear that you have run into money or money has run into you.
Yeah.
Let's say you have run into each other.
Amen.
What around town is that money and I have collided.
Yes.
Eh.
In a nice way.
In a nice way.
That's why I'm your friend forever.
So look for me before Sunday. Tutaenjoy hii kitu.
Sure bet.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Mzee
Happy
says
to be
hello.
here.
He's been on leave for a
Yes,
couple of days.
I spent the whole morning agonizing on what proverb he was going to unleash this time and how to deal with it.
Worry not.
Yeah, but
You can agonize over the proverb that Eric will give you now.
He left.
those ones I'll
You saw
crack.
he's not here.
Yeah.
And you thought there's no proverb. He
Yes.
left us with the proverbs.
Oh dear.
The proverb is from the Gambia.
Oh dear.
Today's proverb: whoever comes last drinks muddy water.
Whoever comes last drinks muddy water. That is strange because the philosophy seems to be always that whoever comes last drinks the clearest, clean water. You know the notion of last in, first out. Even when you are in flight, it's last in, first out. They are who's going,
Unless you're landing in Abuja.
or unless I'm landing in Abuja.
It is last in, whoever out.
Yes. I think basically one wants to cast that within a philosophical context. Of course, all proverbs are philosophical. And here we are looking at the Darwinian philosophical context, which means we also had it in Africa. And it's about the survival for the fittest. And the fittest will survive. And nature itself abhors weakness. That's why you have not seen a limping antelope in the game parks. It will be eaten very early in the morning. Yeah? It's a simple law of nature. Some things eat, others are eaten. And it's up to you to make sure that they don't eat you, that you eat. So whoever comes in last drinks dirty water. And this philosophy is universal. It's not just Darwinian, it's also African. In any event, philosophy originated
From Africa.
And found its way to the rest of the corners of the world.
Sure.
That's a good one. It's a good one. What's happening in the country right now? I mean, there are several things. One, a government that came into office with an agenda. And the agenda was on those 5 things: health, SMEs, digital superhighway, agriculture and food security, and manufacturing and job creation. Okay?
There's housing.
And housing, yes.
And digital superhighway.
Superhighway.
There were 5.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those 5, and 2 years down the road, and people are looking at those things. Housing, where is it? Universal health coverage today, 1st of October. They say we are rolling out SHA. When it comes to the digital superhighway, we've been talking about connectivity. 10,000 kilometers of fiber optic, and setting up digital hubs in every constituency, every ward, and so on and so forth, right? You talk about manufacturing and supporting the manufacturing sector, and establishment of the county aggregation industrial parks, and so on and so forth. And then there's the politics of the day.
Erica,
do you think the government is on track to its promise, or has it been sidetracked by political expediency?
I don't think that the Ruto government has been sidetracked. I think it is spot on its agenda. And this is where we have got to separate between the agenda and the mask. we have got to separate between the integuments and the content, such that when we look at what was peddled to Kenyans 3-4 years ago as the plan, originally the Ruto plan, which then became the UDA plan, and it went on to morph into the Kenya Kwanza plan as the alliances kept being built, you discover that the plan was the mask. But within the integuments of the mask were the real contents, the real agenda. And the agenda was about self-service. So I don't think that the Ruto Kenya Kwanza government is off track. It's right on track. It is serving itself. It is not about serving the citizens.
Okay.
And it does so with abandon, unashamedly, unabashedly, without the slightest care in the world that the citizens may be articulating views differently. They may be saying different things about the splashing, about corruption, about the secret deals with the smoky entities from the global circuit. But the government is undaunted. And when you see them fighting this thing that we are calling impeachment, it is basically an interaction among buccaneers with parrots on their shoulders.
Barrack, are you saying, I'm sorry, Barrack, but what I hear you to be saying is that what the government of the day, what we see them doing, call it whatever you want to call it, but that is what their intent was from the very genesis. And so they're not doing anything outside of what the original intent was, however you want to call it, but they're doing it out in the open because that's what they intended to do from the very beginning.
Absolutely. You know, you don't find spaces in which the people who occupy the center space in power go out unapologetically to make money. When you look at these Adani things that we are talking about in the country today, for example, you are talking about things that invite the integrity of the government into question because the procedures have not been followed, because the openness, the integrity in public procurement and public disposal as laid out in the Act, as laid out in the pledges that Kenya Kwanza made, that the then Deputy President William Ruto made, that made some of us think that here eventually comes somebody who understands and therefore to a great or lesser extent rooted for Ruto. You discover that apparently this was always make-believe. And within that cover, within that mask, was the real agenda. And President William Ruto told the country that he was on mission. It does start appearing that the mission was very different from what Kenyans understood to be the mission. And when you look at the ongoing imbroglio between the president and his deputy, it reminds me of Robert Louis Stevenson's 1883 novel Treasure Island. It's about people who set out in quest for treasure, and you would imagine that they set out in quest for treasure for the good of the society, of the people, but instead it is for their own good. And you can see, I have used the word buccaneers, pirates, basically sea pirates. And you can see the ganging up together, the separation, and then the re-ganging, the regrouping. And make no mistake, from where I am, I see that we have had two formations. a hyenaic formation. You know, the animal called the hyena is unapologetic, and it doesn't suffocate its prey before eating it. It eats you as it moves along. It eats you alive. One will come and go with one limb, the other one will come and go with the other limb, even as you cry.
It's your choice. It's your choice when to die.
And absolutely, you are saying that the cost of living is too high. Do something about the taxation. You are saying things about the splurging. You're talking about the Vasco da Gama-like excursions into other countries. Nobody is listening. It's eating you alive. But as it is eating you alive, the vultures that have been hovering in that space also join in. So it is a party of hyenas and vultures, to the extent that we must ask ourselves, what have we done for ourselves? I was writing in the papers last Saturday, in the Standard, to be very specific, and I was talking about Mary Shelley's 1818 novel that has withstood the test of time 200 years later and going, is still relevant, Frankenstein. We have created a creature that's eating us, that is set to kill us, and that we regret having created that creature. And the rest of our life is about engaging with this creature, even as it seeks to
devour and finish us.
You
know, Ken Mijungu has joined us in this conversation. Ken is the managing editor at KTN. Karibu sana, Ken.
Asante,
How are you
Latiff.
doing?
Good to see you, Ndu.
How are you?
Morning, my friend.
Morning, Ken. It's good to see you. It's
Good to
been
see
a minute, as
I know.
they say.
I know.
Now he's the one who collided properly, nicely with money.
He looks it.
You see. You can
looks,
see. You can
he
see.
looks prosperous.
Can you hear what Dr. Muluka is saying?
Yes.
That in the campaigns, there was this creature that was wearing a mask and sold itself as this and said that this is the agenda going forward. But under the mask was the real agenda. And after coming into office, the mask is off. What you're seeing is the real agenda. And the real agenda is that one is a self-serving agenda. And the rest were just mask. What do you say?
Indeed, it's true. And the good thing is that Tuliwa won.
Oh, wow.
That's a good thing. You know, sometimes, just like the Constitution, you want Kenyans to go the whole stretch and litigate the whole of this Constitution to test every aspect of it, so that at the end of the day, we get to understand it. The presidency, as it is, I think it's a good thing for Kenyans and what's happening, because at the end of the day, we will get to know the people who made realization mapema sana, like Barrack, who was on the other side. But straight after that, they realized where we are and where we want to go are totally two different destinations. And he opted out. So the real agenda started coming out, I think, immediately. But we didn't pay so much attention to it because the divisions were still very apparent and people are settling and healing. But the deputy president, for example, made his stand known right from the beginning, right from the stadium, Kasarani,
Yes.
that it's not business as usual here. For example, Latiff, you tell me, it's been 2 years. At the presidential debate, the deputy president told Kenyans, I'm worth 800 million shillings. At the presidential debate, declared his wealth publicly. Between that time and now, and yesterday he was justifying and saying some of this property were inherited from my brother. How do you improve yourself to that level that you are able to expend close to 6 billion shillings that is documented?
Actually, he was worth more than 800 million. 800 million is what, Nuruddin and Kenoti and Uhuru had held back in his accounts. He was arguing that it's not like you were reporting in the media, 2 billion shillings that had been, held in the account. He was saying it's only 800 million, surely. Can't you people just do math
Really, I
Which
think
meant
I
that-
rewatched that video.
Which meant that
Yeah.
he was, if 800 million has been held back into his accounts,
There was
he's
much
worth-
more where
he's
that came
worth
from.
much more than that.
Okay. But still, during the revetting of the CSs, everyone improved their portfolio with more than half, doubled it, some almost tripled what they had. In the same period, Kenyans' lives and economics, you can't say the same of every other Kenyan. How comes? So I agree. The mask is off. These people, do you know the most interesting thing? And I want to say this on radio. When it was apparent that Raila Odinga was crossing on the other side, someone called me and said, you, I'm not Luo, but they say I'm Luo. You Luos, you're always complaining about the government not having opportunity. Can't you people settle for these 3 years? Mkule government come to me. Someone called me and said that, can you support this government's agenda for the first time so that you guys are in there and you also eat for the next 3 years? Let's think about 5 years. Someone called me and told me that. So basically, he was opening my eyes to what's happening. Nikukula.
Surely. Barrack, when did you notice this? For you, when did the mask fall off?
They ask, when did the rain start beating us, and when did I notice it? As soon as we got into the house, suddenly people were wealthy. You see, when we are on this side where I have lived for a long time, Eric, you and I will call each other and say, Mzee, how is it? Kukoje? You might say, nikubaya sana, and I might ask you, uko na kakitu kwa simu yako? And you might say, I only have 8K. And we say, siurushe kitu huku kidogo, and you might send me 3,000, and I might say, hey, that's very good. Now I have fuel, and madam, mpatie kitu, nunue kitu kidogo watoto wakule. Then suddenly Ken becomes a millionaire. He is already flaunting around monies. He's already being visited by strangers with their briefcases. His lifestyle has suddenly changed. Things are completely different. And you discover that the things that people are talking about, they're supposed to be doing, they're not programmatized in any sense. You are running government on ad hoc basis, on knee-jerk basis. There are no programs. You may talk of, let's talk, Eric, you've said 10,000, 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic. And you are saying every day we have realized so many. If you are asked, where are they?
Underground.
Where? The underground where? Who is doing them? Where are they?
Who's laying the cables?
Who's laying the cables? Where are they?
And then who's using it in the end?
And if you are a gentleman of integrity, or you flatter yourself at the very minimum that you have some level of integrity, you vacate those spaces. You don't want to be part of the lie. And this lie became apparent quite early in the day.
What's quite early?
What's
6 months? A year?
6 months.
What's a good time for it not to come out? I guess the question is.
Within a few weeks.
Within a few weeks, you'd already
Things are
noticed.
already happening, and you wonder, you start imagining maybe you are not seeing properly. You try to change your lenses. You try to look for binoculars and such other instruments that improve sight. And a few months down the line, you ask to be allowed to vacate that space.
For later duties.
Because they say something like, if you work for a man, work for him. And work for him, and man, he is man, the sociological being, so that the women do not get upset. Yeah, work for him with all your heart. But if you are going to criticize, harangue, and so on, then get away, get out of that space. And having gotten out of that space, put on all the robustness that it requires. And it's within that context, for example, that I'm completely persuaded that Mr. Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president, is not himself genuine. I'll tell you that I disagree with a lot of things around this impeachment of his. I'm aware that His Excellency, the President himself, has been whipping the MPs to sign the impeachment motion as late as last night and the wee hours of this morning, where we were in touch with members of parliament who are being coerced to sign the impeachment motion. I find that completely against the principles of good governance in the constitution that President Ruto purports to have an affinity with. But that said and done, I think there are lots of downswings around DP Gachagua. I have not heard him say a single word that is pro-people. It's just been about myself, my job, my 3 years, the promise the president made about me. I would have been happy to hear Mr. Gachagua saying that we were on this path and President Ruto has digressed from that path. And we have disagreed on the basis that he has digressed from the path. We have had the occasion to discuss and even to argue and even to quarrel about this digression. And based on that, I am stepping aside, I'm stepping down as deputy president. The way Jaramogi Oginga Odinga did on the 14th of April, 1966. He stepped away and said, this is not the government we wanted to form. This is not the direction we wanted the country to go. And he put down his points. And on the 25th of the same month, Ramogi Acheng Oneko also vacated that space. And he wrote to President Kenyatta a very long and detailed letter telling him how they had been in detention together, telling him how they had hoped and aspired for the country. You do not see that anywhere in the goings on in the country. You only see Long John Silver with his parakeets. The Long John Silver in Treasure Island has only one parakeet on his shoulder, one parrot. William Ruto has parrots.
Several.
All over the shoulders.
Same as Rigathi.
And Rigathi Gachagua has parrots all over the place.
So, Dr. Muluka, as you say, for example, your eyes were clear immediately because you were close to the action. Others have started just noticing and observing things. Do you think we have a critical mass of Kenyans who are clear on what the agenda for the people was and what the agenda for the Kenya Kwanza administration appears to be?
I think even those who are only by default remotely aware, because there will always be those who are thoroughly informed, there are those who are informed, those who are uninformed. And among the informed, there will be those who are just vaguely aware. And even those who are vaguely aware understood that there was something called bottom-up, and that the incoming government was going to come up with programs, with inclusivity, with projects that were going to uplift them, that they were going to be participatory. They did not anticipate the kind of opacity that they are seeing in the country today. And there is disillusionment across the countryside. If anyone is lying to President William Ruto, I don't know what kind of national state intelligence services he has today, apart from those who have immense capacity to abduct people and take them away and do whatever things they do with them. I do not know what intelligence the president is receiving, because there's disaffection among the ordinary people across the country. Away from the fact that I have recently heard, as Ken Mijungu say, I've recently heard and seen even on TV some people, including youngsters, saying, oh, sasa hii serikali ni yetu.
Tuko
kwa serikali. And even those ones, I think, on sponsored assignments, there is unhappiness. There's a critical mass. People are not seeing what they were promised. Instead, they are seeing a state that is predatory, a state that is extractive, a state that is acquisitive, a state that is self-serving, and a state that becomes increasingly draconian. I have been in this country for close to 70 years. I got here before President Ruto and before his deputy Rigathi Gachagua and before Musalia Mudavadi and all those other people there.
They found you here.
I speak with the authority of an elder. And when an elder speaks, he's allowed even to speak ex cathedra. I have not seen a government that has behaved the way the present government behaves.
No way.
A government, Eric, that sends people out wearing balaclavas to abduct citizens. I have never seen anything like that. The police are supposed to come to you, identify themselves, service number, name, and other accoutrements that go with that, and to tell you, Bwana Muluka, you are under arrest. And if you are a gentleman, such as I flatter myself to believe that I am, they should even ask me to present myself at the nearest police station on the basis of ABCD. We have not seen anything like this. We have not seen an itinerant president who believes that his mission resides outside the country. The role of the president is to sit down and govern, to listen, to read, to think, to lead, to govern, not to gallivant across the globe from a rolling stone. We've got a rolling stone state house, and a rolling stone, it's all philosophy. It gathers no moss. And when my head of state is around, it's imbroglio. He's embroiled in imbroglio with his deputy and with others who do not agree with him. And I agree with, of course, my brother Ken Mijungu, but I also beg to differ when he says, we told you. What does it matter that you told us? The choice was between William Ruto and Raila Odinga, and see where they are.
Let me ask
if
you something.
If one was a hyena, then the other one was a vulture, and the vulture has joined the hyena.
I think it's important. I think it's important to interrogate this on this level where then you want to ask: were Kenyans fooled, hoodwinked, based on the things that you've said?
Yes.
Yourself as well?
I think we've been lied to. Myself, I approached tentatively. I cannot say quite on good conscience that I was deceived all the way. It's sometimes a weighing game, and it's weighing whether you are dealing with a jackal or with a fox, one that's going to trick you, and one that has absolutely no space even for the tricks. But I think the critical thing here is not even to lament, that we ended up with this Frankenstein situation. I think the critical thing is to do something about it. Look, God himself creates the Garden of Eden, as I read as a Christian gentleman, and God himself says, let us make man. The same way we say, let us make a president. And God, having made man, goes away and comes back the following morning, maybe for a cup of tea with Adam, and he finds that things have changed. And Adam starts doing what Ken Mijungu is trying to do here, saying, it's this woman you gave me, and the woman saying, it's this serpent who lied to me. But God has no time for that back passing. He knows that action must be taken, and he takes action. And
so let me stop you there, because that's the thing
decisive
here.
action.
So that's the thing here, because I want to look towards a people who will then continuously make a decision about who leads them. How do you then know who is deceiving you? How do you then know the person who is telling you exactly what they're going to do? Because people said many things to Liwa 1, right? We had an idea that this was going to happen. Others said, no, well, we assumed that it was going to be a change. Change was coming. It was an economic election that was hell-bent on making things better and putting more money in the pockets of Kenyans. How do you know that somebody is actually not telling you the truth for you to make a decision about who will lead you in the future?
We are in the business of kissing frogs.
And hoping they turn into princes.
And hoping that they turn
kiss
into,
as many as until a princess comes up.
And we are going to kiss as many frogs as there are, unless we believe that we do not want that prince. We must keep kissing the frogs. And I restate that this far, it does not seem to matter whether we would have ended up with Mr. Odinga or with William Ruto. They are comfortably ensconced in the same space.
And they're always going to.
Doing these things together. I see Mr. Ruto on the global circuit behaving like the latter-day Don Quixote de la Mancha, whom Miguel Cervantes was writing about in the 16th century, Don Quixote. I see him gravitating all over the place from here and there, fighting windmills. And I see Sancho Panza peeping on the sides and smiling cheekily. And that Sancho Panza is Raila Amolo Odinga. They are beholden in this thing like Siamese twins. And so to that extent, Ken, we are in a catch-22 situation. And we must begin by admitting that neither one or the other, and we must chastise ourselves with the acceptance that we have made a mistake and we've made mistakes before, but continue hoping and re-energize ourselves, rearm ourselves morally, ideologically, and continue to believe that the change we want can come.
Let me ask you, the idiom, be careful what you wish for. Could it just be that this pair really wanted this really bad, although we understand also at some point, especially on the office of the official opposition, it was actually an idea that was floated from their side, taken to the embassies and the foreign powers, and they had started preparing ground for possibility that William Ruto would have lost the election. So he wanted to secure his own position in this structure. So the question is it possible that they really wanted this, but they didn't know what to do with it once they got it? And that's the reason why we're here.
I think William Ruto knew what he wanted. And I think that...
he's getting it.
And he's getting it. He knew what he wanted. We have got to separate what we wish for from what the leaders wish for. The leaders wish for positions that are going to give them access to the fat of the land and the opportunity to exploit the fat of the land. The people wish for substantive change in their circumstances, and they see leadership and positions only as avenues to that which they wish for. And at some point, an individual like William Ruto may cast himself as the Messiah who is going to take them to the promised land, and he may come with Rigathi Gachagua in the wings, and the people of central Kenya and the rest of the country may believe, after we have wired in Musalia Mudavadi, Kingi, Mutua, Wetangula, and the rest, that this is the team that is going to place Kenya first, as it says, Kenya Kwanza. But when they get there, we find that they have been wolves under cover, vulpine under the veneer. And the veneer comes off with the first raindrops, and we see them for who they really are. And Raila Odinga, who was wearing a different mask and also desiring to be in the same space, will come out and talk about something called inclusivity. I do not know how many of us remember that the demos, the mandamanos of last year, 2023, January, February, the refrain inclusivity kept coming up. Inclusivity.
Yep.
They were saying, include us.
We want to get into
the gravy train. And there was a quiet handshake, and they have been included. And so we must look at them as one bundle of a problem in Okoh. It is one bundle. And to some extent, Kenyans should feel happy that now these people are bundled up together. We do not need to struggle very much. George Orwell tells us at the end of Animal Farm that the animals outside that arena, outside that circle, outside the farmhouse, cast their sights from man to pig, and from pig to man, and back. And already it was becoming difficult to tell the difference. So it is good they are bundled together, bundled up together, and the animals outside the gravy train would know that they have got to get rid of that gravy train, the whole lot and caboodle, and everybody who is in it.
So it's time to get rid of everybody who serves in a position of leadership today, because they've shown that the interest of Kenyans and the safeguarding of livelihoods is actually not top of the agenda. Is that what you're saying?
The political leadership, because there are certain leaderships that are also helping us to understand our situation better. If you really look at the people whom you seriously want to call the public servants, the civil service, the public service, you can see that those are people who are keeping this country going. They are holding this country together in the sense that they are doing the work they are supposed to do, although they are bullied all the time by the political class. And it is a political class that we must get rid of. I've talked about institutional memory. Look, there was a time in this country when we had only one party. One party state. And we even became a one-party state by law. But you had a small group of individuals, a remnant few, as the prophet Elijah of the Bible would say, a remnant few, voices that kept speaking for the people, voices that drove change, the people who are christened their bearded sisters. They were bold, they were courageous, they were intrepid, and they helped us to make some movement. It is irony of monumental magnitude that in this age and day of the most progressive constitution in the world, that MPs are still allowing themselves to be bullied around, to be bundled into a situation where they must dance to the whims of the executive. I do not know what it is about them that makes them so beholden to an executive that is self-serving, and you have a neutered legislature. I cannot, for the love of me, begin understanding. And there are, even within that class, a few people who must be hailed. When we look at persons like Richard Onyonka, we must ask with Abraham of the Bible that suppose there's even just one. Yeah, so there are.
There
could be one, there could be a few, but the majority are on self-service missions, as is the state itself, as is State House itself. And Kenyans need to wake up to this and move away from this belief that these are our buccaneers.
Yeah.
That if these buccaneers come from Emmanuel, that these are our buccaneers.
And they bring us pride.
Yep.
They elevate Emmanuel, the village, and everybody can now see. See, we also have rich people who can eat.
Yes,
from
and
the big pot,
they're eating you.
as well. Well, these conversations must continue, and we always must, raise our consciousness as a country and ask ourselves, how do we identify the right frog to kiss? Because even as you are kissing all the frogs, it's a game of chance. And you have to use something to say, this one has a higher probability of being the prince. You can't just go kissing 100 of them. You have to play a game. You've got to play a game. Barrack, always a pleasure having you, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My joy.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.